error blamed for a Melbourne plane crash that left 5 dead.
Boating tragedy. A skipper dies after his yacht runs aground in rough seas.
A crime scene established after human bones are found in a national park.
Incredible comeback.
We thought we'd never see it, and I don't believe he thought either.
Tiger Woods returns to the top.
And Lake Macquarie's cliff diving queen clinches another world title.
This is NBN News with Natasha Beyersdorf and Paul Lobb.
Good evening. Human bones have been found at the bottom of a steep ravine in the Royal National Park south of Sydney. The remains believed to have been there for months, if not years. Reporter Alice Monfries is at the scene and filed this report a short time ago.
A passing motorist made the grisly discovery when they stumbled across the bones after stopping here by the side of the road to go to the toilet. On Saturday afternoon. Since then, police have spent the past 2 days combing through this area of bushland, looking for any further remains or any clues that could help them identify just who this person is. But at this stage, they don't even know the gender or the age, although they have been able to confirm that it isn't a child. They've also confirmed that they don't believe this person ended up here by accident. The way the remains were found lead police to believe that this death was suspicious. They're confident that DNA testing will help them determine who the person is, and a post-mortem will help them determine how they died. Some of those results are due back as early as this week, hopefully shedding some light on just who this mystery person is and how they came to be found in this lonely stretch of bushland.
The widows of 4 American friends killed when a plane crashed into a Melbourne shopping centre last year are set to seek millions of dollars in compensation.
Air crash investigators today revealing pilot error was behind the tragedy.
When pilot Max Quartermain took off from Essendon Airport, his Beechcraft B200 started pulling to the left. In 10 seconds, he got out 7 mayday cries before the plane crashed into DFO shopping centre, killing him and his 4 passengers. 19 months on, air crash investigators have finally revealed the cause of the crash.
Our examination confirmed that the rudder trim tab was in the full left nose position at the time of impact. This was not detected by the pilot.
The rudder trim, which helps control the plane, was left in the wrong position. The result was that on takeoff, the plane turned sharply to the left and failed to climb. If the pilot had carried out his routine checklist, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau says he would have had 5 chances to fix the problem.
So it appears as if the checklist was not followed correctly.
Lawyers for the widows of the 4 American tourists killed say they'll be launching multiple legal claims.
The circumstances of this accident are indefensible. It's pilot error. All up, for this group of people, it will be in the millions.
The pilot's wife, Scylla Quartermain, released a statement in her husband's defence, saying, "I know in those terrifying final moments of this accident, he would have been doing everything in his power to bring the plane safely back to the airport to save his passengers."
If it hadn't struck the shopping centre, it may well have impacted the Tullamarine Freeway at 9 o'clock.
The report also found that the cockpit's voice recorder didn't record the flight because it hadn't been reset after a tripped impact switch. The ATSB said that deprived investigators of potentially significant information. The fatal flight, which had been bound for King Island, Tasmania, is one of Victoria's worst civil aviation crashes.
It was supposed to be the skipper's first voyage in his new pride and joy. Terry Annesley had picked up his yacht and begun the voyage home to Bundaberg. But somehow the journey went terribly wrong, the vessel running aground on Wanda Beach.
The small yacht was simply no match for Mother Nature, battered by the wind and waves after washing up at Boat Harbour. The first sign of trouble came at 3:30 this morning when the CC Riders emergency beacon was activated. By the time rescue was found, the capsized boat, 72-year-old skipper Terry Annesley was missing, but the 24-year-old woman he was sailing with survived. Jacinta Hipp cheating death, swimming safely to shore.
Obviously, it's a tragic circumstance, and at that time of the morning, and the fact that it was still quite dark, it is remarkable that she's got to the shore.
Initial assessment was that they were just treating her for exposure and hypothermia, as she's very cold, and then transported stable for further monitoring.
Helicopters scoured the rough seas, spotting the elderly man's body off Wanda Beach. He was winched onto the sand, but couldn't be saved. The 8.7-metre vessel was less than 24 hours into its maiden journey with its new owner. Terry and Jacinta set sail from Greenwell Point at 5 a.m. yesterday, running into trouble on the way to Bundaberg. They hadn't logged the journey with maritime safety.
The conditions overnight were far from ideal. It was choppy, windy and pitch black. It would have been incredibly difficult to navigate these seas and the reef off Kurnell.
Look, there's a message to be well prepared. Make sure that you know the weather, know your vessel, log on with Marine Rescue and log off when you get to your destination, and wear a life jacket.
How the yacht overturned is now the subject of a police investigation. The answers hopefully lying with the sole survivor. Tiffany Genders, NBN News.
Sydney's biggest game changer since the Harbour Bridge. They were the big words from the Prime Minister today as construction finally began on the city's second airport at Badgerys Creek, some 50 years after it was first proposed.
In the driver's seat. When it comes to building an airport, the Prime Minister left it to the experts.
Okay, Trevor, let it go.
Scott Morrison sending in the bulldozers onto a cow paddock which is to become the runway at Western Sydney Airport.
This is the biggest game changer, I think, for the city of Sydney since, we built the Harbour Bridge.
The $5.3 billion project has been in a holding pattern for 5 decades. Badgerys Creek was first mentioned in 1969, but every time a site was proposed,
This is Lutnam.
protests and backflips followed.
This is the only jumbo they'd be happy to see in the area.
The Hawke government began buying up land at Badgerys in 1986. But in the years and prime ministers that followed, the project found itself on again and off again, until today. Construction will mean 11,000 jobs and 28,000 when the airport's up and running.
I think this place is going to be boomtown for the next decade.
Turning aside certainly a landmark moment for Scott Morrison. But will he be around in 2026 to open it? I'll just have to wait and see.
But the latest polls have given him a slither of hope. Scott Morrison has notched up the best approval rating for a PM in 2 years, 13 points clear of Bill Shorten. There's also been a 2-point improvement for the government. The bottom line, though, if there was an election tomorrow, they could still lose up to 20 seats. A double thumbs up? Well, not just yet. Damien Ryan, NBN News.
Another Newcastle institution has closed its doors for good. Darby's Pies shutting its shops today after trading for almost half a century. The closure has left more than 100 employees jobless and owed entitlements, with liquidators now trying to salvage anything they can.
Embracing each other, Darby's Pies employees mourn the end of an era. The baker today closing for good.
It's a great place to work, a great guy to work for. It's just a shame that it had to end.
The decision was made over the weekend. Existing administrators, Josh Sutherland, now acting as liquidators. The company had employed more than 100 people across 27 stores. All were made redundant.
I asked 2 weeks ago if we're going to still have a job, and they're like, oh yeah, nothing's closing. And then they said they got 2 contracts till 2020 and they were extending the factory.
Seeking answers, some attended a private meeting this afternoon. The liquidator telling them, while the company is not in a position to pay outstanding entitlements, employees will be able to access the federal government's Fair Entitlement Guarantee Scheme.
A lot of the girls are casual, so we're not too sure where we stand on that. If we do get any money, we've got to wait 4 months for any money.
Loyal customers were also gutted. Many had no idea today was the last supper.
Been coming here since a small child, really. It's an institution. Always been here.
Creditors are due to meet early next month.
Someone else will come here, won't they? I hope.
Sam Burbury, NBN News.
The wait for justice continues for the families of 3 men killed in a horrific car crash at Morisset in 2010. Brothers Luke and Ben Ramsey, along with Rodney Field, were killed when the car Joe Anthony Fennick was driving crashed on Freeman's Drive. A special hearing began today but was quickly adjourned, lawyers submitting documents for consideration. The hearing will resume tomorrow.
The Newcastle Art Gallery redevelopment is being resurrected with the formation of a new working party to help secure funding. The Lord Mayor says with state and federal elections looming, now is the time to refocus attention on the project.
Transforming a 19th century gallery into a global museum of the future. $244 million is being injected into the Art Gallery of New South Wales for its extension, all of the money from state government coffers. Newcastle Art Gallery, meanwhile, has missed out again. The Lord Mayor says it's time to be proactive. It's time to be proactive.
I'll be presenting a minute to Council tomorrow night to reinvigorate the expansion of the Newcastle Art Gallery, and this is all about making sure we update our business case and we have all our ducks in a row to advocate really strongly.
Councillor Nelms wants to establish a gallery expansion working party, including representatives from the New South Wales and federal governments. Money has been set aside, but a major funding commitment of around $30 million is needed.
We only get to show barely 1 to 2% of our very unique collection here at Newcastle Art Gallery because of the size of the space.
Along with more gallery space, the project would include a cafe and larger shop, features of any modern gallery. It would also become a major tourist attraction. Back in 2005, the gallery first unveiled expansion plans, and long-time supporters believe it's our turn after recent funding commitments to Grafton and Shoalhaven regional galleries.
I'm just really, really pleased that it's back on the agenda where it should be. Working party with all the stakeholders and council, state and federal government involved. Hopefully this time we'll pull off the redevelopment.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.